Hey everybody, Rob C here. I'm sitting on my front steps of my new house that I'm really proud of, and just wanted to give a shout out to my wife. This door was black when we moved here, and we thought it was kind of drab, and she picked out this color, and man, I'm blown away. I love it, and I'm really excited. So anyway, the point of this video is I'm coming back to YouTube, and I kind of wanted to post a bunch of videos and see how it goes, see where it takes me, see where it takes us. And I think that based on some of the feedback I've gotten, I want to be genuine, I want to be real, I want to be me. But I also want to kind of upfront address some questions that I've gotten from past videos that I've made. And one of the topics that I covered when I was making videos was quitting smoking. So what I want to do is I'm going to give you 2 tips that will help you quit smoking for good, right? Trust me. But first I want to kind of give you an idea of how I quit. So I was a smoker for like 21 years, right? I pack a day. I smoked Newports almost entirely. I started with Marlboro Reds, switched over to Newports, and when I finished off it was Camel Lights. All disgusting, blah, 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 you know how it goes. So anyway, and what made it hard to quit, I tried quitting 15, 20 times, and what made it hard to quit was I was in a band. And we were on tour for 10 years, touring the country. We toured the UK a couple times, and smoking was kind of part of the scene. I was in a van with 2 other smokers, so we were basically living on the road in a little closet in a van. If you think of a van, that's your room that you live in for months at a time. And they were smokers, and we smoked inside the van, and so it was impossible to escape it. And then when we go to play clubs, this is at a time where most of the time you could still smoke inside, so we were smoking inside, and we were having drinks. All the triggers were there. The other bands you're hanging out with, the fans, like a lot of these people smoke, and so you're surrounded by people smoking. And for those who are trying to quit, it seems an almost impossible task. I did it while doing all that, but I had tried quitting 15, 20 times before that, tried all kinds of things from Chantix, which I documented on my YouTube page years ago when I tried it, which I don't recommend for anybody because it makes you crazy, and then when you're finally done with it, if you still have the mentality of a smoker, you're gonna go right back to smoking. That's the problem. So I want to give you now, so how I quit, basically, it was August of 2012, and my sister took me to California. We went to California to visit my cousin who lives out there, and kind of just go to California. It was my first time ever visiting California, and I'd always wanted to go. And so we decided, so we were there. And while we were there, we were in a rental car that my sister had rented, and I felt terrible because, you want to smoke just like you always do. You want to smoke every 15 minutes or something, or whatever it is. I was wanting to smoke all the time, and so it's like, oh, can we pull over so I can smoke? And she's like, yeah, well, you can't smoke in the car. And she's like, okay, fine, smoke in the car. You immediately notice that you're kind of a burden at times like that. And in California, there's something about the California mindset where it felt like I was the only smoker for miles around, right? Everywhere we went, I was the only smoker. I'm standing on a corner smoking a cigarette, and I feel like the eyes of the world on me, like, who's this disgusting jerk smoking a cigarette and filtering up the air? I felt that with every puff. And I think we were at some really nice restaurant in San Francisco. We were in San Diego. We were in San Diego, somewhere on a street, sitting outside, having an amazing dinner. And I'm tasting this dinner, and we're both like, this is like some of the best food we've ever had. And I'm sitting there, having quit before, I know that when you quit, you start recognizing how much flavor you're missing out on, how much scent and flavor. Like, it's almost like when you're a smoker, you can only taste one dimension, but when you quit, and like about 2 weeks into a quit, you start feeling your senses opening up, and you start getting flavor profiles that are just, you never had before, because all your senses were dulled by the cigarette smoke. And it's like, wow, things taste so much better. So as I was eating this food, knowing how good it was, also coming to terms with the fact that I tasted terrible. Like, well, not that it tasted terrible, that I wasn't tasting everything. And I was paying $7, $8 a day for the luxury of not tasting this amazing food, right? That's essentially what it comes down to. And it was like at that point where I'm like, okay, what am I doing? I'm paying money every day for something that I don't even like. It doesn't do me any good. It makes people look at me weird because, I'm the only one there doing it. And I don't taste any of the good food that I'm eating. I'm not smelling any of the good smells that I'm smelling that we should be smelling. So that put a mindset into my mind that it was about time. I needed to quit. And so, having tried a whole bunch of different things, I decided to just kind of try something. I had tried the patches and the gums and the lozenges and the Chantix and all kinds of stuff. I never did acupuncture or any of that stuff, but I had tried all the nicotine replacement therapies and everything, and I just knew that it didn't work, because you just get to a point where you just give up and you have a cigarette. So I was like, I don't want to do it that way, so let me just try something new. And I don't know if I read it somewhere or whatever, but eventually I got to the point of tip number 1. And tip number 1 is pretend it's easy. And I gotta say, that was the magic of me quitting for good. And I know that sounds stupid. It sounds crazy, right? You're like, those of you who are smokers, you've been smokers forever, you know how hard it is. You know you need to have that cigarette in the morning. You need to have that cigarette last minute, at the end of the night. You need to have that cigarette before you get in your car, as you're driving home, before you get to your driveway. I know. I smoked for 20 years, pack a day. I know exactly what it's like. I know how hard it is, how hard you think it is. But I'm talking about, in a way, trying to trigger your placebo effect, okay? And what I mean to say is, start telling yourself, you say you want to quit, in 2 weeks. 2 weeks from now, you're going to quit. Whatever you want your anniversary to be, right? Pick that date ahead of time, and then start practicing every single day. Just telling yourself all day long, quitting smoking is easy. Quitting smoking is easy. And then eventually you start believing it, right? And you start kind of adding in other things like that. Quitting smoking is easy. I won't need that cigarette after dinner. I won't need that cigarette first thing in the morning. Quitting smoking is easy, right? Just keep saying it to yourself, but you have to believe it. You have to convince yourself. So pretend. Start off just pretending. It sounds stupid, and you're gonna say quitting smoking is easy. You're not gonna believe it at first. But if you continually tell yourself over and over again, before you go and do it, that quitting smoking is the easiest thing anyone can do, trust me, it is. It is. You will convince yourself, and then when the time comes, it's just gonna be easy. It's your body. You will follow your belief in that it's easy, and you have to convince yourself, and you have to do it. And I'm telling you, if you can just fake it until you make it. It's a phrase for a reason, because it works. So fake it that quitting smoking is easy, and eventually reality will follow. Your brain will rewire itself into being convinced that quitting smoking is easy. And I really, that was the magic for me, quitting smoking. It was so easy that within 2 days, I had already forgotten about needing that morning cigarette or anything like that. And I think it was a week or 2 later, we were on tour. I don't remember where we were. I want to say we were in Kentucky somewhere where you could still smoke inside. And I realized that I had made the mistake of starting to drink at a show, and drinking being one of my number 1 triggers to going back to smoking. And it was easy. I had no problems staying quit. I would drink, and it was I think it was 2 or 3 drinks in, I was starting to feel a good buzz. I'm hanging out with a bunch of people, all smoking cigarettes. And one of the guys was like, "Oh, hey Rob, here you go, here's a cigarette." And I'm like, "Nah, don't need it." I quit. And it was an automatic reaction. I didn't intentionally say it to be I quit smoking. I actually didn't want it or need it. And what normally would have been a trigger for me was 100% not a trigger. I was totally not triggered to have a cigarette. And it was because I convinced myself, and this was at the point, and I actually laughed to myself when this happened, and I remember it very specifically. It was the realization hit that the whole thing of me convincing myself to pretend that it's easy actually worked. And it was easy. And I had no problems with any triggers, any of the triggers. You could put a cigarette in my hand, put a cigarette in my mouth, put a lighter close to it. No urge whatsoever to have it. I have not had any urges to smoke from the day I quit. Cold turkey. Not a single urge. And that's being surrounded by smokers for that whole time. I was in a van with two guys smoking cigarettes all day, all night. Cigarettes were everywhere. I could have grabbed them anytime I wanted to. I had no urge or want to because it was easy for me to quit. So that's the first tip. The second tip, and actually there are 3 tips. The second tip is to keep in mind, all of you who have quit smoking before, you know what it's like when you go back to it. So, for instance, you quit smoking, a week goes by, you're proud of yourself, everything's great, and then you have a fight with your significant other or a family member, and it just gets you so pissed off, and you're like, oh man, all I want to do is have a cigarette right now, and you're like, yeah, you know what, screw it, I'm gonna go get a pack of cigarettes, I'm gonna drive off to the store, and as you're driving to the store, you've made the decision to go back to it, you're like, I don't care anymore, right? You're driving to the store, you're like, you can't get there fast enough. You go in the store, give me a pack of that Newports. You feel a little bit of that rush. You're like, yeah, give me a pack of that, whatever it is, Marlboros, Newports, Camels, right? You get the cigarette in your hand. You pay the cat, you get your money back. You walk out, you do the pack thing, or whatever your tradition is, whatever you do, right? You peel off that thing. It's like, yeah. You pull out that foil, and you smell that burst of tobacco. You're like, yeah. You pull that first one out. Maybe you flip it over. I don't know. But then you finally grab that one. You put it in your mouth, and you feel that familiar soft feel of the filter. You pull out your lighter and put the cigarette up to your mouth. Every single one of these steps, you're like, yes, I'm going back to, yes, my old friend, my comfort zone, all of that stuff. It feels great right up until you pull in and it's like, and then you exhale. Fuck. I just blew it. All that energy I put into quitting, I just blew it in that one puff. So you go from this super buildup of oh yeah, I'm gonna go back to it, and then it just like a hammer drops on your head where you realize that you completely screwed up and you completely undid all that work you did to get to that point you're at. That moment is what you need to hold with you if you do get an urge. So anytime you get an urge, feel that feeling of failure. And what I'm telling you is that will just keep the urges at bay. And the urges, if they do come, I said I haven't had urges. You have little moments where you're like, oh, I could have a cigarette. But it has no impact on you, almost no impact on you. Those urges are as easy to let go of as anything else. You know you're going to get the urges. They can be as strong as they want to be, but your brain is more powerful than those urges. You can shut it off. And as soon as you shut it off, it's gone, right? It's behind you. I'm 8 years smoke-free, and I feel like I don't even remember that I was a smoker. I don't at all feel any urges. I don't feel like I need cigarettes for anything at all. That's like a laughable thought. You can get to this point. You can get to the point where you don't need it anymore. The third tip that I would have is don't use any NRTs and nicotine replacement therapies. Is that it? I don't know. Nicotine replacement. Don't use the gum. Don't use the patch. Don't use Chantix. Don't use any chemicals. Don't use anything. Use this. You got this thing. It's more powerful than any of them by 1,000,000 times. All right. You can do it cold turkey. It's the best way to quit. All you have to do is convince yourself that it's easy. And you can do that. Your brain listens to your thoughts. Your body listens to your thoughts. Your entire being, reality, listens to what you believe. What you believe is the truth. That's why placebo effect has such an amazing effect when people do, studies on it, when they're doing medication trials and things like that. There's a nominal number of people who are given a placebo, and the placebo works. And it works, I believe, because they believe it. And what you believe most becomes your reality. So, convince yourself that it's easy. Don't use any replacement therapies of gums or patches or any of that crap. Don't use it. Don't even think about it, because all you're doing is keeping yourself addicted to nicotine. Get off of it. Give your body time to detox, which will happen after a few weeks or two. And then like you're gonna get to a point like I did. If you can convince yourself that it's easy, you're gonna get to a point where you're gonna be surprised one day by your reaction to an urge or a trigger. So you're gonna have where I was standing outside, drink in hand, someone offers me a cigarette, and I'm like, no, don't need it. But it wasn't me saying that because I was being forceful about it. It was me saying that because I actually really, that was my natural reaction was, no, I'm done. And from that point on, I used that to springboard off of for the next urge that came along. You know, you will eventually very quickly get to the point where you forgot that you were even a smoker. And urges will have no effect on you. I did it after smoking a pack a day for 20 something years. I think it's 21 years. And that was 8 years ago that I quit cold turkey. I did it. It was super easy. You can do it, and that's how I did it. That's pretty much it. So do it. Quit smoking. You don't need to do it anymore. You don't need to pay all that money for it, and you don't need to be the pariah to the society that you know you are. Please ignore that. But that's the truth. It's the truth. All the things that you don't like about the fact that you smoke can be gone just like that. Gone. And I had all those thoughts too. They're all gone. It's a part of my past. I don't even think about it. And like I said, I can even smoke a cigar, and it doesn't even affect me. Like, it doesn't pull me back in at all. Like, it really is awesome. So try it. If you're a smoker, give it a shot. And if you do, please come back here and let me know. Let me know that you did it, because I would definitely, it would help me, and it would help a ton of other people too. So awesome. See you guys later. More videos to come. Let's see. Hopefully. Take it easy, guys.